After years of climbing the corporate ladder, he finally walked away. Not because he failed, because he reached the top, looked around, and realized the life he had spent so long building was starting to feel less like freedom and more like a very expensive machine. The title was there. The money was there. The status was there. But so was the cost. And then he went back to the conversation that ended the last story, the one where he started imagining something of his own. The person he was talking to then is the same person standing with him now, the one who believes in the idea, helps put money behind it, and becomes part of the first real leap into something new. That is where this story begins. Not with a promotion, with a risk. Level 1. The first yes. The first version of the company is not a company yet. It is a meeting, a few pages of notes, a rough plan, and one conversation that finally turns the idea into something real. He is no longer talking about what he could build someday. He is deciding to build it now. The person sitting across from him matters because this is the first real act of faith. They are not just agreeing with the idea, they are backing it. They are putting money into it, pushing it forward, and making it harder for him to treat it like a fantasy. That changes everything. He has spent years in corporate life learning how to fit inside a machine that already exists. Now he is trying to make something from nothing. No brand behind him, no safety net, no old title to fall back on. Just a business plan, a name, and the strange excitement that comes from realizing the next chapter belongs to him. At first, that feels like freedom. He picks the office. He signs the first documents. He starts making calls as a founder instead of as a banker. The work is still exhausting, but now every hour feels like it belongs to a future that does not exist yet. He thinks this is the hardest part. He is wrong again. Level 2. The money starts slipping. Something inside the business starts going wrong. Revenue slows. Costs rise. The margins get thinner than anyone expected. What looked manageable for a few months starts becoming a pattern. The company is still alive, but it is bleeding. He tries to hold it together the way founders always do at the beginning. One more client, one more quarter, one more round of support, one more push before things turn. So he starts putting in his own money. At first, it feels temporary, a bridge, a way to keep the business moving until the next wave of revenue catches up. But the losses keep stacking. The company doesn't reverse fast enough. And because he keeps feeding it from his own investments, the pressure starts spreading into his personal finances too. That is when the story changes. It is no longer just about a business having a rough stretch. Now it is his money, his risk, his future, all tied to a company that is still not stable. Level 3, the rebuild. Once the losses deepen, he has to stop thinking like a founder chasing momentum and start thinking like a founder trying to survive. This is the rebuilding phase. He cuts expenses, he tightens the structure, he rethinks what the company actually is, not what he hoped it would be. He has to decide what stays, what goes, and what can no longer be supported. That means hard conversations, smaller ambitions, and a much more disciplined version of leadership. The hardest part is that the money he pulled in to save the company is already partly gone. So now he is trying to rebuild the business while also rebuilding himself. That changes his mindset. He stops treating every setback like a temporary inconvenience. He starts treating the company like something that has to be designed to survive, not just praised for having potential. He learns that recovery is not about believing harder. It is about making the business strong enough to stop needing rescue. Level 4, the turnaround. The company starts to move again, not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to make him believe in it again. A deal closes, a client returns, a piece of the structure that felt broken now starts making sense. The numbers are still imperfect, but they are no longer bleeding. The business has traction, and traction changes everything. The pressure is still there, but now it feels productive. He is no longer only trying to survive each month. He is beginning to build a pattern. He can see which choices worked, which relationships mattered, and which parts of the company can actually scale. This level matters because it proves that the company was never dead. It was just unsteady. That is a huge difference. He becomes more patient here, less romantic, more precise. He stops chasing every shiny opportunity and starts focusing on the ones that can really move the business forward. He learns that a good turnaround is not about one big victory. It is about 10 small ones that finally compound. The people around him begin to notice too. He sounds different. He moves differently. He is still under pressure, but now he has direction. And direction is the first sign that the story is changing. Level 5, real growth. This is the level where the business becomes unmistakably good. The company is no longer just surviving or recovering. It is working. Clients trust it. Revenue is real. The reputation starts to spread. The thing he built in private is now visible in the market. That creates a new kind of pressure. When you are struggling, everyone wants to know whether you can survive. When you are growing, everyone wants to know whether you can scale. Now, the challenge is no longer proving the company exists. It is proving that it can become bigger without losing what made it valuable in the first place. He feels it in the hiring, in the customers, in the way the calendar fills up faster than he expected. Success brings complexity, and complexity is expensive. But this is also the level where the dream starts to look real. The company pays well. His name starts to carry weight again. He no longer needs the old world to validate what he has built. The business has its own gravity, and that changes him. He is still working hard, but now the work feels like it is creating something lasting, something other people believe in too. That is a different kind of victory. Level 6, family and stability. By the time he reaches this level, he is no longer the same man who walked out of corporate life. He has a family now. That changes the meaning of success. The company is strong, the income is stable, and the life around the business has become more settled. He is no longer just chasing the next milestone. He is thinking about what kind of future this company supports. He sees his time differently now. He sees risk differently. He sees legacy differently. At this level, is not about the thrill of building anymore. It is about the responsibility of maintaining what has been built. That is a harder test than most people realize. It is easy to be obsessed when everything is new. It is harder to stay disciplined when the business is good, and the family expects you to be present too. He starts to understand that success is no longer measured only by growth. It is measured by what the growth allows him to protect. A home, a marriage, a steady life, a company that does not consume him. At this level, he finally feels like he has built something that fits him. Not just a company, a life. Level 7, the heir. And then comes the final level. His son is old enough to understand the business, old enough to see what it took, old enough to begin learning the company not as an inheritance, but as a responsibility. That is when the story becomes generational. He is no longer building only for himself. He is preparing someone else to carry what he created. That changes the way he thinks about every decision. The company is no longer just a measure of his ambition. It is a living thing that could outlast him. He starts teaching his son the parts nobody sees: how to lead, how to listen, how to absorb pressure without turning hard, how to protect a company without becoming trapped by it. And in that quiet passing of knowledge, the story comes full circle. He left a system that belonged to someone else and built something of his own. He lost money, rebuilt, grew, stabilized, and eventually turned it into a legacy that can continue past his own lifetime. That is the real reward, not the title, not the car, not the first funding round. The fact that the thing he built can now move forward without him. And then, after everything, he finally gets there. Not just successful, not just stable. He has built his own ladder, and now he is standing at the top of it with a company that carries his name, his decisions, and his life's work. For a while, it feels like the final answer. The kind of success he used to imagine when he first walked away from corporate life. But time has a way of changing what victory looks like. The younger generation is sharper now, faster, more in tune with the market, the technology, and the pace of the world his company has grown into. He can feel it in the room, not as defeat, but as a quiet truth that every founder eventually has to face. The company does not need him to hold on forever. It needs him to make the right decision for its future. So he does the hardest thing a man like him can do. He lets go. He passes the company on to his heir, not because he has lost control, but because he understands what it takes to keep a legacy alive. He knows the best way to protect what he built is to give it to someone who can carry it forward into the next era. That is the final lesson. He did not just build a company, he built something that could outlive him. And in the end, that is what made it real.